Anyone here ever look back at a picture from your childhood and wonder, how in the world did my parents let me go out looking like that? Well, at the risk of exposing myself to ridicule, let me show you my most awkward childhood photo. Can you even handle that? Look at those rainbow suspenders. Can you make out who's on my t-shirt? Yep, that's Mork from Mork and Mindy, the role that launched Robin Williams' career. I was so into the TV show that this is the outfit I chose to wear for my third grade school picture. Why didn't anyone stop me from doing that? Where were my parents? Well, friends, today, as we continue our series Circles, a series that's all about the importance of small groups, that picture demonstrates why each of us needs a circle of friends. We all need friends who will tell us the truth, friends who will prevent us from going out in public like that. Yes, we are in the second week of a series where we're talking about the importance of pushing back the tendency to do life on our own, to instead do life together. Last week we talked about how circles are better than rows. Now don't get us wrong, we love rows. We love what happens on Sunday mornings as we gather in rows and celebrate God through music and teaching and communion. What happens on Sundays is incredibly important. But as important as it is, we believe that circles, small groups, are even better because there are things that happen in circles that just can't happen in rows. Real care for one another happens in circles. True belonging happens in circles. Prayer for one another happens in circles. So many things that happen in circles just can't happen in rows, and I get it. There are so many things holding us back from joining a circle, from connecting in a small group. Busyness is an obstacle. We are busy people and we've crammed our schedules with so many activities that the idea of making a commitment to something else seems impossible. Fear is an obstacle. It feels safer to keep our struggles and our shortcomings hidden, to remain unknown. Tiredness is an obstacle. It takes energy to engage in relationships. Those of us who are introverts are hesitant to exert ourselves. So with all of these obstacles facing us, too many of us decide to just spend our life sitting in a row, maybe in a row on the couch watching someone else's circle on TV. But we're missing out because circles are better than rows. We were made for circles. We need circles. Dr. Gilbert Bilzekian, in his book Community 101, writes, "The silent churning at the core of our beings is the tormenting need to know and be known, to understand and be understood, to possess and to be possessed, to belong unconditionally and forever without fear of loss, betrayal, or rejection." You can't truly be known in a row. You can't fully be understood in a row. You can't deeply be loved in a row. We need circles. Understand circles, connecting in small groups, it isn't something new. It's been happening since the beginning of time. In fact, we can go back thousands of years to read something written by a guy named Solomon that stresses the importance of circles. Solomon became king of Israel after his father, King David, died. And as he was starting his reign, God gave him the opportunity to ask for one thing, anything he wanted. What a gift, right? You're starting out leading your people, following in the footsteps of your legendary father. You're new to this huge job, and God gives you an opportunity to ask for anything. What would you ask for? Freedom from enemies? Centralized power? Unlimited resources? Well, Solomon doesn't ask for any of that. Instead, he asks for wisdom. Anything in the world could have been his, and Solomon asks for wisdom. And God is so pleased by his choice that he grants Solomon's request, and he becomes known as the wisest person that ever lived. People all over the world traveled to consult with him, seeking his wisdom. And the good news for us is that a lot of Solomon's wisdom is recorded in a few books of the Bible. And in one of those books, Ecclesiastes, Solomon talks about the importance of living in circles. He says, 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Ever see someone fall alone? I mean, maybe it was a financial fall. A crisis hit and they were stuck with no one to help them. Maybe it was a relational fall. Their marriage was in trouble. Tensions were high and they had no one to turn to for help. Maybe it was a physical fall. Their health crumbled, sickness hit, and they had nowhere to turn. In my role as a pastor, I see this all the time. And we've spent a lot of time building our individual lives, working hard to get ahead, and then we come home exhausted, and we give into the temptation to spend every night sitting in a row alone. But when we fall all alone, and we can find ourselves in real trouble. Now, often when this happens, I'll get a call or an email asking for help. And my first question is always, are you in a small group? But I already know the answer. I mean, if the person was in a small group, they probably wouldn't be calling me. And I don't mind. I mean, if I can help, I want to help. I want to care in any way that I can, but any help that I or the staff at Community can give will always be limited because we can't be in everyone's circle. In circles, you have people who are there for you when you fall. I mean, you have others who know you, who know your story, who, when something happens, don't need to be told where you live or what your children's names are. So let me ask you, do you have someone to call at 3 a.m. if you are in trouble, if you fall? According to the American Sociological Review, the answer for many of us is no. I mean, 1 in 4 people say they don't have a close confidant they can talk to. Another 20% say they have just one. So if that holds for us, close to 50% of us have no one or only one person we can really confide in. You see, sitting in rows will do that to us. It's why we need circles, because circles will help us when we fall. Let me take a moment right here to talk to those of you who are parents. Here's an important thing we need you to understand about circles. Circles are for everyone. Circles aren't just for you. Circles are for your kids too. Recognize that while we sit in rows, your kids and your junior high students, they're in circles. I mean, right now your kids aren't just attending Kid City or attending Stuco. They are connecting in a circle. Parents of little ones, you may not have thought about this or realized this before, but in Kid City, your child is building a relationship with a small group leader and with the other kids in his or her small group. I mean, what's happening in Kid City, it is not childcare. We're not just providing a place for your kids to hang out while all the big people come sit in rows. No, Kid City is a ministry of circles. That's why we call each group of children a small group. We have small groups for toddlers, small groups for 5-year-olds, small groups for 4th graders, and we ask our amazing Kid City leaders to serve every week because they are not just watching children, they are building relationships in a circle. I mean, we want to partner with you to make sure your child has a small group where they are loved, where they are cared for, and they are connected with other adults and children. And that's why it is so important that you come consistently and come to the same service every week, because while you sit in a row, your child is in a circle. And the same thing goes for your students. Circles are for everyone. While we sit in rows, your junior high kids are connecting in a Stuco small group. They're learning about life and faith and connecting with kids who are going through the same things they're going through and with adults who have been there. I mean, your high school students have the opportunity to connect in a small group at various times throughout the week. And let me tell you why this is so important. Because somewhere down the line, when your child is 12 or 14 or 16, they are going to fall. I mean, something hard is going to happen in their lives, or they're going to mess up just like kids are bound to do. And at that point, they're going to need a circle. Now, if they're not in a small group, you're probably going to come to one of our Stuco directors and say, hey, my kid really needs a circle. And we're going to do everything we can to help that kid get connected. But it's always better if they already have a circle, especially if they've had that circle since they were 8 or 5 or 2. Circles are for everyone. And you know why circles are for everyone? Because not only can a circle help us when we fall, circles can actually prevent us from falling in the first place. Back to Ecclesiastes 4, Solomon continues, "Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken." You see, he's saying on your own, you're not going to fend very well. But in a circle, you can prevent a lot of stuff from happening. In a circle, you can keep from being overpowered and broken down. In a circle, there's someone who has your back, someone who will stand with you, someone who can look out for you. You see, circles are preventative. And what do circles prevent? Well, for one thing, circles prevent blind spots. Blind spots are scary when you're driving on the interstate, aren't they? I mean, have you ever caused an accident or almost caused an accident because you changed lanes not realizing there was a car in your blind spot? I mean, here's the thing. The cars driving a few lengths behind you, they saw it coming the whole way. I mean, as you put your turn signal on and started to cross over the lane lines, they were probably screaming their heads off, wishing they could warn you about the danger. That's what a circle can do for you. You see, someone can see what you can't see. Someone can see the disaster about to happen in your life. And you know that is true. And you want to know how you know that's true? Because you can see the disaster coming in other people's lives long before they can. I mean, you've seen stuff coming in other people's relationships long before they did. I mean, you've seen stuff coming in other people's jobs long before they did. You've seen stuff coming in other people's kids long before they did. You've seen it coming in their lives. And here's the thing. They've seen it coming in yours. Now, it's not fun to point those things out to someone or to have those things pointed out to you, but it's critical to our well-being and to our maturity. You see, in a healthy circle, in a good small group, someone is going to see it coming in your life, and someone is going to say something. Let me speak to those of you who are single for just a minute. I'm single, and I think this is something important for us to recognize. You know, as singles, we need a circle because many of us don't have anyone telling us the truth. I mean, lots of us, we live alone, we do what we want to do, and we don't even know what habits we have that are driving other people crazy. I mean, blissful ignorance, it's one of the best parts of being single, isn't it? But the problem is, without someone speaking truth into our lives, without someone pointing out to us the things we can't see, our well-being is at stake, and we're never going to mature in certain areas of our lives. You know, I remember a number of years ago, I was talking to a friend in my small group, Kim, about another person that we both knew that I feared was becoming a little too codependent on me. I mean, the truth is, the other person was fine. I mean, as an introvert, I just have this irrational fear sometimes that people are going to want too much of my time and too much of my attention and energy. And I was telling Kim about how I was trying to make sure I had boundaries because I didn't want this other person to latch on too tight. And Kim just looked at me and said, "Don't worry, you're not that great." Now, it's because Kim was in my circle that I knew, and I knew she loved me and cared about me, that I wasn't the least bit offended by her words. I needed her in that moment to point out how arrogant, how irrational I was being. You see, in a healthy circle, in a good small group, people will do that for you. But it's not just those of us who are single that need a small group. Married people, you need a circle too. Every marriage needs outside support. When you're in a marriage, you can't see things about your marriage and your family that other people can see. Even the single people in your life can see it coming. Being in a circle and allowing friends to speak truth into your life can prevent it from taking you down. We all need a circle because circles prevent blind spots. And not only do circles prevent blind spots, circles prevent isolation. As we mentioned earlier, there are going to come times in our lives where something falls, when a crisis comes, And remember, Solomon says, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. Though one may be overpowered, though one might be overcome, though one might be overwhelmed, two can defend themselves. We will respond to overwhelming circumstances better, to the crisis moment, if there is someone there to help, if in those moments we don't find ourselves isolated. As I mentioned earlier, when a moment of crisis comes, so many people call a pastor or the church office and they ask, can the church help? And we're going to do everything we can do to help, but the church office is not the church. The church office can express concern and compassion, but what you really need in these moments is a circle, and circles take time. I mean, if you haven't developed a circle along the way, it won't be there for you when you need it. You'll be disconnected. You'll probably feel isolated. And we will do our best as the church office to help you, but the church office will never be able to be as good as a circle. Pastor Andy Stanley explains it this way. He says a circle, a small group, is like a retirement account. If you wait, it won't be there for you when you need it. But if you invest now, making it a priority, you can draw on it when you need it. And he goes on to say, I've never met anyone in authentic community whose broken heart left them broken. Those who have a circle fare much better when the difficult times come, even the most difficult time imaginable, a time that community attenders Jim and Lori faced last year.
Hi, my name is Lori Cook, and this is my husband Jim, and we've been coming to community for about 18 years.
Small groups for me was a foreign term. I grew up in the South, obviously, and then we had Sunday school. We didn't have small groups per se, and my wife kept pushing me because she's more relational than me. And then I really got connected through the musicians here, and then another group called the Fight Club for me. It was 6 guys that had the similar backgrounds, and we really connected that way. And that helped a lot. That went on for years. That was probably 15 years ago, and I spent an hour on the phone yesterday with one of my friends from that group.
Then we did get into a couple small group, and that was also just awesome. And the funny thing is that our kids loved it because it was a couple small group, but the kids, a lot of times would be in another room, and so they got to form friendships. Our whole life was our small group basically, because our family's not here. And so our small group was our family here.
It was one of the best periods of their life.
And ours.
And ours, yeah. Meeting with small group.
Yeah, and now
really
they're
was.
And now they're our best friends of all. The people that have just been with us through the hardest year of our life has been the people from our small group.
Yep. In 2014, December the 23rd, my wife and I were wrapping presents in the living room floor, and we got a phone call about 9:30. And it was one of our sons, David, and he said that Chad, his younger brother by a year, they were at the local fitness center playing basketball, and he had fallen, and they were pumping his chest, and he wasn't breathing. On the way to the hospital, Laurie got on the phone and started emailing, texting, and calling her small group. And I started getting different text messages and stuff from members of my small group. When I came out of the emergency room at 11:05, and they told me that my son Chad, who was 20 years old, had a heart attack and they couldn't revive him, I kind of fell into the arms of my small group members. I did not realize how many people were there.
And the hospital just filled. There was so many people there because my kids are in small groups, so their friends were there.
I would think there was probably 40 to 50 people there from different small groups.
Bill and Sherry live in Omaha, and they literally found out, left in the middle of the night, and drove 10 hours to be with us and stayed with us for a week.
We spent Christmas Day at the funeral home making details for Chad's service and picking out urns or caskets or trying to decide what clothes to dress him in. That was not a good Christmas. And Bill and Sherry were right there at the table with us.
Honestly, as I look back at this last year, I don't know if we'd even be sitting here today if it weren't for our small groups, the women and the men that have helped us do life. If I would have been back 18 years ago with the little kids and not having that community, I don't know how we would have gotten through this year.
Life is life. It's hard.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier and more acceptable when you're in a group.
For me, it's been the women that have held my hand and listened to me cry or literally hold me up when I can't stand.
Life is easier in a circle than it is in a straight line. And it has been. When you pray, you join hands and you usually get in a circle. I was holding hands with a bunch of guys one night and we were saying our prayer before we left. And I said, as long as I've got you under this arm and you under this arm, I'll be okay. And I really did feel that.
I've never met anyone in authentic community whose broken heart left them broken. Those who have a circle fare much better when the difficult times come. 2 challenges I want to leave with you today. One is obvious. If you're not in a small group, if you're not in a circle, get in one today. Fill out a communication card at your campus, contact your campus pastor or your small groups director, or just ask someone you know if you can join their small group. We want everyone to have a circle, so overcome whatever obstacles are standing in your way and join a small group. The second challenge is for those who are already in a small group. Here's the thing, just because you get in a circle doesn't mean you automatically have a close-knit group of friends. It takes time. It takes relational investment. It takes a commitment to consistently connect in your circle. So take the time, make the investment, be committed to your group. Every one of us needs a circle. If you invest now, making it a priority, it will be there for you when you need it. People who make being in a circle a priority understand the wisdom of Solomon. They know that circles are preventative. As we close today, I want you to think about your own story, the family you grew up in. What might have been different in your life if growing up your dad was in a men's group? What might have been different in your life if growing up your parents had been in a small group experiencing authentic community? What might have been different if you had grown up with a group of Christ followers who loved you, who were there for you, who helped you mature along the way? You see, together, we can decide that things will be different moving forward. We can choose circles. We can give circles to the next generation. Let's follow the wisdom of Solomon, because circles are better than rows.